Job training, so the developer agreed to contribute a significant amount of money. There's going to be a match by the redevelopment agency. The first source hiring policy, there's going to be a very exciting program to actually get the pipeline going. So we have, obviously we have the pre-apprenticeship programs, and we need to set for the construction jobs, and we need to get that all planned and set up in advance, and then the pre-apprenticeship programs feed into the apprenticeship programs. For the permanent jobs, similar kind of thing, except that there's no apprenticeship program, so we have to set them up. Significant number, probably 3/4 of the jobs or 2/3 of the jobs on site are going to be union jobs, and wall to wall, every single job that touches the site, all 5,000, are going to be living wage or above, based on the city's living wage ordinance, which is about $10 an hour with benefits and $12 without. There's going to be a major park. LA is a hugely park-poor city. Go through this. There's, major public art, 1% of the total project. And then there's going to be a push toward LEED certification. And actually, we're in the city's redevelopment agency, we're now pushing for every single project that gets subsidy or is on our land to be required to actually at least hit LEED Silver, which is substantially sustainable. So we can talk more about that if you're interested. And that's my presentation. Now I'm going to pass it along to Maria to talk about the LEX CBA. Sure. Clarifying questions. Sorry. Okay, LEED's the U.S. Green Energy Council. And please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. U.S. Green Building Council, based in Chicago, has a certification program which has become the certification program for sustainable building practices, so that don't consume so much energy, that use natural sunlight, that reuse water, that have, there's many aspects to them. And that's called LEED, Leadership in Energy, Environmental Design, LEED. And they have various levels. So there's LEED certified, then there's LEED Silver, LEED Gold, and LEED Platinum. And so that's what LEED. Obviously, we want to save our planet and make our communities, LA is probably the most polluted or one of the most polluted big cities in the country. We want to make it a better quality of life. We've got to really force these developers who are, with these huge buildings, these big buildings create more pollution than almost anything else, than millions of cars actually. So this is important. Yes. The question is enforcement, and are there city agencies that enforce also? The best CBAs are enforceable by both the government agencies and by us. So you have enforcement provisions that are built in, and then the CBAs themselves are incorporated into the public agreements. So you have the basic requirements that a city agency has to enforce parts of their contract, which include the CBA. But we can't just say, good job, we won the CBA, go do your business, redevelopment agency. Unless we sit on the board of the redevelopment agency and we can monitor it over time. And we can make sure that there's staff there that are committed to doing that. That's one thing. But just to basically say, go do your thing, government agency, and then just to get mad later on when they don't do it, when we knew that they weren't going to do it in the first place, is not effective. So that's why what we want to do is give ourselves multiple options and opportunities. So we have CBAs enforceable by the city government, which means we have political pressure that we can use in order to get this thing enforced, right? But we can also enforce ourselves. And that means, depending on what we've built into the agreement, at the very least, we can go into court. But ideally, you have these different levels built in, where you have, mediation, and then arbitration, and then, and then if it's not happening, then we can actually go into court. Because we know, in the end, it's expensive to go to court. So, but we want to give ourselves multiple options, a whole range of options. So the question was, they had an experience in New Orleans around a Home Depot project, which wasn't successful. And so other than educating the policymakers, what are ways to actually get these ideas embedded into the process? And actually I want to take that in two pieces, because there's policy questions about how you embed these ideas, which are very hard to get past. But how do you set up a successful CBA? I think one of the problems with that Home Depot project is that you started really late. And so you didn't have a lot of time to build the coalition, to build the community support, to educate the policymakers, to do the research showing that this was going to create more poverty than it was going to create good jobs and solutions. And so you got caught up in this is free market country, right? And this is wrong. This is anti-American to be requiring things of developers who just want to bring jobs to our community, right? I can hear that in my sleep. I've heard it so many times. So to counteract that, you have to start early. You got to have this research component that's really built into your program on an ongoing basis, so you know about it before they actually touch ground. And then you've got plenty of time. Then you're holding your elected officials accountable. They're not voting on that damn project unless there's a CBA, or they're going to vote no. So to be able to get decision makers to vote no on a project is a huge push, right? It's possible. It just takes time. Getting apprenticeship programs opened up is a challenge, but it's not impossible. And the way to think about it is, what's going to be a win-win for everybody? So if you just go to the trades and you say, we want more apprenticeship slots, you've got to remember that apprenticeship programs are funded by development. It's per a dollar amount in every hourly salary, every hourly wage of people working that goes to fund the apprenticeship program. There's very little state money. It's actually funded by the industry. So if they don't have jobs, then they don't have more apprenticeship slots. And so then you've got this problem. You've got all these people who have been trained and who are waiting, and they're on a list and they've been waiting in line, and it happens that most of those people are not people of color, but they're still needy people. So you've got this perspective of the trades. So the way to go to the trades is to say, okay, we want to get you more jobs, but we want those jobs to be opened up for. So we want you, and the other thing that's important is that they have a legal obligation, unless there's an agreement otherwise, to go by the seniority list. So having an agreement in a CBA or a project labor agreement, for example, that says they're allowed to bypass their seniority list is the way to go. And that's how we've convinced the trades to do it. And then, of course, there's the value of bringing people together. I don't think the trades want to be seen as, most trades, I can't say all, but they don't want to be seen as racist exclusionists, right? Some, they just need to, go by the wayside. But a lot of them really want to be in the new world, and they want to do things right. And they also want to do right by their members, and they want to be successful. So that's the thing, is to think strategically what they need, and then to go about it that way. So without going into a long description and discussion about the Ballpark Village CBA, I can tell you that we can make the CBAs as democratic as possible, but they're not a democratic process. They can't be. A negotiation is not an open forum, because it won't work. The developer's never going to agree, never going to go into a public hearing, right, with 1,000 people screaming at them and negotiate the terms of a CBA. It just won't work. So the best you can do, problem in the Ballpark Village is that they had a 6-week deadline. There was going to be a vote, and basically the city council members were saying, I'm not voting no on this. I will support you, but only if you can get an agreement in this timeline. And so there was a huge effort to bring together a coalition and to do the process that I was talking about, that we usually take months to do that in a period of weeks, and then to get the best they could. And so once it finally went forward to the city council, not everybody was happy. I think that there are a lot of groups, and this is just from my perspective, that are never going to be happy with anything we negotiate, because negotiation by itself requires compromise. We're not going to get everything we want. But I think anybody who feels like an open democratic process is the only way to do development should not be doing CBAs, because fundamentally CBAs is about power, but it's about being strategic about how we use that power to win the best we can in the most democratic way we can